Yep, the
That is
classic.
a Michael Murata. That's going to be fun. Not for NoPing, obviously, but for us on the spectators side of it, because it's always kind of funny. Murata is one of Michael's probably best known heroes, maybe up there alongside the Coddle, but Infamous had just kind of quietly shelved it for a little bit of time, and this is the exact reason why, because it falls off of the other team's radar, and then you can just grab it for yourself with a lot of a lot of setup, and now even more. They've got the Storm, the Sand, and the Grimstroke, who can all set you up for an arrow.
Yeah, it's honestly very satisfying to see. And again, we get to see the Grimstruck paired with the Sand King, where you just get to Ink Swallow him in. He runs in, he does all of his damage. It's such a good combo. It's so easy to play. Not to mention, paired with the Storm. I mean, I think that is the answer. We've seen many, many times the Storm Spirit in isolation and the Sand King in isolation, when they're just paired together, it just works. You just have two of the same heroes, and I do like this pickup. I think we heard from High Shaggy as well, the DK being a good response to the Storm Spirit, just having that blink stun. But now we're back to BKBs, we're back to tower defenses, we're back to whether or not NoPing can take the magic damage that Infamous are going to be putting out here. It's an interesting question to propose.
Yeah, and DK getting a BK, or not a BKB, excuse me, a Blink Dagger, and then suddenly becoming a problem. Is there in theory that the thing was NoPing ran that exact sort of expectation the last game by putting Guts on the Tiny, and his Blink Dagger ended up being significantly delayed by the time they had it. A lot of those opportunities had kind of already dried up. So, not sure who plays what position just yet looking at this lineup, but your DK is almost certainly going to need the Blink no matter what. Just how quickly can you secure that item for him?
Yeah, and that's where NoPing, we want to be asking those questions, right? They've got last overall pick. We want them to have that flexibility. I think the dead ringers here would probably be, we are going to see a 4 Hoodwink, probably going to see a 5 DP, depending on how they swamp up their lanes, we could see even more movement. But at the same time, if we weren't looking for a Parker hero for Infamous, it'd be so funny if they just picked Timbersaw. It's such a good Timbersaw game right now. If they got it versus NoPing, if that Sand King was maybe shoved off to the side a little bit, it would be real rough. But at the same time, I think Infamous, they're very confident. They want, at the same time, we've already talked about them doubling down with their initiation with the Sand King and the Storm Spirit, but now they just need their big beefy carry, ideally a Scotty carrier, because you're playing versus DK, DP, Tiny. All of these heroes are just going to get gunked up, slowed. At the same time, you throw some illusions into the mix. I feel like a Parker TB would just be brutal for NoPing to deal with. I don't think that would. I think that would probably be Infamous's best choice in the NoPing. They've got a big problem to deal with aside from just taking all of their buildings. But that's where I think NoPing are the opposite. They want another hero that's going to give them agency. If it is going to be, let's say, a DK mid and a tiny carry, which we don't even know yet, they'll probably make that choice after Infamous choose a carry of their own. Then they either need an offlaner who's going to be in front of this Death Prophet every single step of the way, or they need a mid laner who's going to farm at that same rate of the Storm Spirit and then keep both him and the Sand King under control. I feel like if they went for the puck, that wouldn't really be as neat a pick as we saw Felt try to make it look like earlier today, but those are the two types of heroes I think they really could use right now.
And NoPing, there's a solid ban for them. Don't want to let that CK through. So that that honestly would have done basically everything Infamous would have wanted. All right, everything you outlined. You've got the stun to pair with the Grimstroke. You've got damage. You've got the illusions. It just kind of ticked all those boxes. So NoPing, not gonna let it through here. Meanwhile, for Infamous, this is where things get kind of interesting for them. They banned out the Monkey King first. So do you continue to go forward with maybe another carry ban at this point? Do you think that they back off of RDO as a position one tiny? Okay. So they ban out
Interesting.
the Razor. That's what RDO played in that previous game, but this game feels like the Razor was maybe less viable than it was before.
I'm really glad they've been TB. I'm really happy
Okay.
about that one. But yeah, I think the Razor's an interesting band out here. It does allude to, I think, what hero they're going to maybe pick up in their own carry, where they want someone who's not going to be afraid of getting linked. I wouldn't go so far as to say they pick like a life stealer, but whenever you see a Razor band, the two heroes that come to your mind instantly as a drafter are Ursa, life stealer, somebody who's going to be a melee hero, who's going to be stuck in there, and who's not going to be able to get out. That would be the most clear heroes to cover for with that Razor taken out. At the same time, though, I feel like they want an agi carry. I feel like they want someone who's going to build that Scotty and just keep these heroes stuck in that kind of ranged reach that Scotty gives you. So I don't know. It's a little bit of an interesting band. I mean, the monkey is also an interesting band because usually when you see monkey band, you think of Medusa and you think of Wraith King because you think of heroes that have spells that persist after you die. But I don't think we're going to see the Wraith King from Infamous. That would be a really strange way to take the draft, especially considering you're playing versus strength cores. So your burst damage is not going to be really felt. You're not that blink in, kill everybody type hero. But I think that's where Infamous they're trying to gauge their window. I think in the last game they had an infinite window, so any hero that Parker was going to play, and of course his Kunkka had like 900 GPM, he was really able to scale infinitely. I think with this carry pickup though, they're going to decide: are we going to be a Roche killing team? Are we going to be a split pushing team? Are we going to need to farm for 25 minutes before we deal with this no ping lineup? That's probably what's going through their minds right now.
Yeah, and they're burning through really the last of their reserve time, thinking this one over. And yeah, pick is in, and it's gonna be the PL. Okay,
Yep.
so well, that's not easy for No Ping to deal with. They've got maybe a little bit of sort of AoE damage to work with, but if this PL does get into that sort of late game uh sort of juggernaut with the Heart of Tarask, No Ping are going to be hard pressed to just bring him down quickly.
Yeah, and hey, that's your infinite scaling. I mean, Infamous have definitely slowed down their lineup with this, and especially that lane with the Grimstroke is not going to be, I think, nearly as strong. They're going to need to heavily play up on that Hoodwink. Otherwise, really, it's just going to be a farm fest where the DK is going to try to deny you as much as possible. But also, very brazenly picking PL versus what could be a carry Tiny still. I mean, Tiny is still Tiny. He still does a lot of cleave. He still does a lot of damage, not to mention especially when you have lower points in Doppel. That Avalanche is a very obnoxious ability, one that you could certainly get caught in an Ava into a bushwhack, and then you go down for real. So it's really interesting to see them feel confident enough in this PL pick. But I also feel as if No Ping are searching for that next very useful hero that they could use to just jump in very early. I mean, I feel like they need a Mr. Jeans hero. They definitely could just run the DP mid. We've seen DP versus Storm matchup play out several times already. I don't feel like we're going to see them loop around for a 5, but again, NoPing, they really have, I want to say, an infinite amount of options. I think the only hero they can't really pick up any longer is like another 4 position, but in regards to everything else, they could really take this in any direction, and we'll have to see because they got me guessing.
Yeah, the flexibility is nice, but oh,
Okay.
eventually a decision has to be made, and it will be. The Pangolier coming out for I think really just the first time, at least the first time I have seen so far in this event. So where are they running it? They're gonna put Sexy Fat on the Pango at the 3. They'll run the DK mid and the Tiny as their carry.
Yeah, and of course, this is going to be a Pango into a Grimstroke. You are going to have to be very conscious of that Rolling Thunder getting used in conjunction with the Soulbind, but at the same time, there's a reason why this hero is as popular in other regions, and I think a big reason why we've seen it peeled back and not really picked up as much is simply it is a much better mid laner, and Storm Spirit is a better mid laner than Pango, and that's where the Pango versus Storm matchup is miserable. I think that's why they go for it kind of late into the draft, and it has a very good matchup versus the PL, but you simply can't lane Storm versus Pango. And I think that's why we see everyone else go for a different option. But DK versus Storm, that's much more even. Guts isn't going to really be able to fight for runes maybe as much. That's the only problem with the matchup. DK runs at your tower, and then Alone will be looking for runes in the meantime. If he gets a DD, maybe he can kill the DK. But other than that, No Ping are certainly set up in a much more stable fashion than they were game one.
Right. Yeah, I think just at this point their plan is just going to be to hold the lane steady and see where they can go from there. As well, we will get this one underway. Guts, like you said, it should not be pushed out of the lane. I'll be very interested to see, though, just how his last hit count sort of stacks up with that Storm Spirit, and whether on the No Ping side we see them actually go for that immediate sort of D-ward of the side camp. I always talk about how important that play is, because if you let the Storm have that supplemental farm, you're already just kind of shooting yourself in the foot a little bit. So we'll see if somebody gets out there to try and block that one up just as soon as get one of our players back in, because did have a bit of a DC there.
Yeah, and uh, okay, fast reconnect, fast
Oh
reconnect.
wow. Yeah.
Um, But yeah, I think NoPing certainly have a more of a fighting chance here, and I love to see the sexy fat Pango. Pango is one of the most fun heroes in Dota to watch. Just seeing the chain stuns, the rolling thunders, just seeing what you can actually do in lane. I mean, a lot of early kills usually happen with this hero just because you're constantly playing in the creep wave up with the shield crash damage block, and then suddenly it ends, and then you just kind of die, and it's good stuff. At the same time, though, we do have the tiny. We get RDO on a much heavier farming hero than I think we've seen really in the entirety of phase one. He's always put on the more active role. He's always put in, I don't want to say a less ideal position, but it's always the position where he's the one that needs to show up with the BKB and the Blink Dagger, and he needs to make everything right. Where it seems like in these SA matchups, he's always the one who's, the one aggressing, where they always get to farm on the other side and then have a pretty decent time. And especially in this matchup, Parker just always gets to farm. But, ooh,
Very aggressive maneuver here as they get the turnaround arrow onto Sexy Fat, but now Infamous realize that's the whole team up on that high ground. So
everybody, D-ward, kill the ward.
Infamous technically will win that. Their ward is the last one standing, but very sort of kind of awkward approach there. They were hoping for the wraparound. Alone was sort of coming in through south, whereas the rest of the team wrapped in from the north, but you're not going to be able to take that many heroes. Ooh, that many heroes by surprise as Michael very nearly got the long-range arrow. Nifty moves from LeBron to sidestep that one, because if he gets hit there, well, it would depend on what the Storm actually, I guess, skilled up, but they could have seriously considered that kill.
Yeah, and they will just kind of reset here, And hey, LeBron actually did get the last hit on that ward up top, so he gets to start with maybe a little bit more regen, a little bit more gas in the tank. And as we always talk about with this Michael Miranda, block his camp. Do not let him farm. Do not let Oscar and Michael get that much more out of the lane, because that's exactly what they're gonna do. And oh, the arrow actually
Oh,
clipped. Oh, I don't know if LeBron was ready for that one. Oh,
and can they actually get him, though? The siphons, the fairy fire, gonna be enough for LeBron to live, but yeah, for a moment, well, first I thought he was just clear of it. Then I thought he sort of stepped back to try and save his ranged creep, but I'm not sure that was the case either. I think that was just kind of incidental, and he's lucky he doesn't go down, but that's already your death prophet kind of being taken out of this lane, because he's got the tangos, but he needs the time to use them, and Michael's not going to give him that time. Look at the bully tactics we're seeing here. That's a salve, too, being used by your position 5 support. That's just not fun.
yeah, and as we always talk about, whenever the five, through good trades, through nice early game decisions, is forced to salve himself, then the pressure is certainly put on your carry that much more. Thankfully, RDO is tiny, so he does get to last it. He doesn't really get denied all too much. Laning versus the Sand King, I mean, he's got another 20 base damage on him. It's not the end of the world, but at the same time, the further out you can drag this Tiny from the tower, Tiny always loves to last hit with that extra armor, with that extra protection from the tier 1, so the further you can pull him out, the easier it is. But this Wraith Band will certainly help RDO a little bit more as well.
Stapu, so just kind of chuckling to myself there. Michael threw the arrow trying to hit the ranged creep. RDO stepped in front of it, but Michael ended up just right-clicking the ranged creep he wanted anyway. So, get the damage and the last hit. It's just the way that Michael plays this hero. There's a reason why we were sort of hyped up when we saw them select it. It's always so effective with it as, speaking of effective, over on the other side of the map, ooh, Sexy Fat kind of misses with the swashbuckle, so Duster has to step in to take the kill, but that will be first blood going NoPing's way, and if you can consistently keep the Grimstroke sort of down and out, then Parker is obviously not going to be quite as comfortable in this lane.
Yeah, and that's also, can't stress enough, they've certainly weakened the Grimstroke here. He's going to have his opportunity, most likely, onto the Hoodwink as opposed to the Pango, but it is not going to feel like you've got that CK to just win the lane. You just do 300 or 400 magic damage, you buy mangoes, it's very efficient trading. It's really just going to be Parker last hitting and then at the mercy of his opponents. But yeah,
Goal.
bottom. Ooh.
He tried to wait so long for the leap, and I think he still got it. Yeah, he's going to get the kill. RDO, though, ooh, he can't get the toss-off. Oscar comes in with the Burrow Strike. Rana leaps away. I don't think they can turn that into a second kill, but RDO using time and mana there, and doesn't actually get the return kill.
No, the trades are very, very nice. You get the bounty rune as well because you took out the 5. I feel like the Death Prophet wanted to maybe reset and give some space over to Guts as well, but Guts has just been battling alone. I've just been seeing him right-click the Storm Scrape for what feels like the past
Oh
30
boy.
seconds. But the arrow,
It
oh,
didn't hit, but they might still have the damage.
he's got Fairy Fire though.
Oh, yeah, he's fine. Okay. If that arrow connects, though, that is a dead DK, and that's kind of, well, not the way that this is normally supposed to go. Guts, I think, was just assuming this is a standard DK lane. He's just going to sit here, and he and the Storm will trade last hits. But with the Mirana in the lineup, you've always got to be afraid of that rotation. And in the meantime, alone, this is a massive stack he's got for himself early. I don't think, yeah, he's not going to get another stack there, but this is a lot of farm. And, well, I said at the start of the game, would NoPing sort of invest into trying to block off that side camp? No, they didn't. And now Alone's got a lot of extra farm.
Yeah, and you give the rest of the lane over to the Mirana. I mean, nothing is wasted from Infamous. They just have a very, very pretty early game, even though it is very funny seeing Guts just running at Alone and then Alone just almost remnanting in a vain effort to stop the DK from stunning and denying the majority of the creep wave. But unfortunately for Guts, that's where he cannot keep up in net worth. You're never going to see him walk over to the small camp. If he's not getting a surplus of denies here, it is going to be, I think, that little deficit they have to play with. But it's going to be incredibly important for Guts to be very aware of these supports, because if he dies after committing a DK form, he doesn't really have a place left on the map to go to. He's going to be kind of stuck in a really awkward position. But Parker,
What are you
ooh,
doing, Parker? That's just way too far forward. A's coming in to try and help, but it's not enough. I don't really know what he was trying to do there. He had such little health and only Magic Stick Magic Stick charges, excuse me, to work with. Kind of tempting fate there, and if NoPing or hand delivered a kill like that, they're not going to let it go.
yeah, and that was Orb of Corrosion timing as well on Sexy Fat, so they just push it, and it works. I mean, you get whatever you want. He's lost, I feel like, a wave and a half under tower for the PO as well. You will be able to meet this next one, but, I mean, now the wave is going to push into Sexy Fat, and then he's going to get a 6, and then that's where you see that Pango on the map. You see him go into the SK's lane, and it's also happening at the same time as DK hit level 6 with the cart, and everyone is here. Do they tank for it? Oh,
Ooh. They
what
definitely
an
could have
arrow.
absorbed that, but yeah. Now with the siege creep gone, I mean, they can still get some good damage, but I don't really know if they have a realistic shot at taking the tower, especially with further TPs coming in. The Storm is making his way back over. A has arrived. Guts is looking a little bit vulnerable here. LeBron's going to try to come in to help. And, well, actually, that help is pretty damn effective, but it's not going to be enough. Guts will still be taken down. Now they turn their attention to Duster. Hitting him with the Stroke of Fate. Bushwhack, though, saving the day. Michael's a little low himself, so he's going to have to back off. And now, I don't think Infamous have the firepower any longer, but they got really the only important kill there, taking down the DK.
Yep, they get the DK, they stop the push because the cart goes down. Everything just feels very nice for them. Their mid is going to be another team fight whenever that DK form does come back up, but I think they're very pleased with that defense. At the same time, though, 6-minute rune did die, so the Storm is going to be a little bit in an awkward spot. At least he got the bounty rune, and oh my goodness,
Look at
he has
these
so many stacks to
stacks.
farm. Yep.
What the hell? This is just insane how much farm he's getting as... Okay, Oscar, maybe a little bit too far there. Down in the bottom lane, trio of heroes collapse onto him, and they are able to find that kill. But if you're Oscar, not really sure if you're too broken up about that one. It's his first death. He's 1,000 gold away from his Blink Dagger. His mid laner has taken 8 stacked camps already, so I think you're doing just fine at this stage in the game if you're Infamous. What's going on here? Duster and LeBron. Okay. Teaming up for a little bit of a dewarding mission. Meanwhile, Guts attempt 2 at this tier 1 tower.
Yeah. And it's really whether or not they have enough gas in the tank here. A doesn't have the most mana to work with. He could probably get bottled up by a Storm, and he's even baiting a little bit, I think, and yep.
They're going to pull him in. The silence is there, but it doesn't stop the Inkswell stun, so Guts still has to run away. They're actually TPing Sexy Fat in. They really want this. Sexy Fat pushing forward. They're going to try to get onto Alone. Alone, though, actually zips back into the fight. That's a little bit of an awkward decision as A gets taken down. Oscar thought about it. Won't commit fully with the Epi. But if you're Infamous, yeah, you lose your Grimstroke, but that's another Elder Dragon form used, and the tower's still standing. So overall, I think Infamous are still just okay with these trade-offs. That's twice now they've been able to just sort of stonewall NoPing's attempt.
Yep, they get to defend their tower. Triple null is completed on alone. He does lose the Arcane Rune, which is a little bit unfortunate, but it doesn't get used on Guts before the Dragon Form's activated, so I think
Ooh.
he's completely fine, and
Can they
yeah, it's a little bit
can they do
crazy.
this onto
Nah,
RDO? They
they've
needed
got
that
to give up on
epicenter.
that.
Good attempt. RDO pressured up a little bit, but be able to do much more than that. Meanwhile, look at the build here for RDO on the Tiny.
He's
Pretty
doing it.
interesting.
He's doing it. He's getting the Moon Shard. Unfortunately, with this build-up, I remember distinctly Ame, or sorry, not Ame, Mune, uh, bought a Sage's Mask as well, just because you do need some mana, and it looks like he will supplement that with a range up flying out to him, because you do need a little bit of mana on the Tiny, but this is the cool build. I'm excited. I'm very happy.
See, well, we'll see how quickly he can get it, because Moon Shard ain't cheap, but if he's given space to farm up in the jungle here, then I think that will work out quite nicely for him. So, looking at the other side of things, if you're Infamous, not sure if they've really been able to catch on that this is the build he's going for, but Oscar's got his Blink Dagger flying out to him, and that would be a perfect time to start maybe applying some pressure to that jungle and see if you can sort of knock that Tiny sort of off his axis a little bit.
Yeah, and I think Oscar is most likely going to rotate to farm that Ancient Sec pretty soon here. Unfortunately, even though he has that Blink Dagger, without any more points up in the Burrow Strike, it's not going to feel nearly as scary. I think that's where he might be looking for possibly his next wave. Still does a lot of damage, but you just really can't pin him down long enough for that Epicenter to really feel like it's going to hit, unless there's that arrow follow-up, but Alone's meeting them. They're going bottom. They'd love to find RDO.
What can they do here? They're going to try and go in. They get a relatively easy attempt onto LeBron, but they really would love this Tiny. They're just not going to get him. RDO gets into the tree line and TP's away, but... well... They've got a siege creep here, so they could easily just turn this into a push onto the tower, but they don't seem overly interested in that at the moment.
You know, they're all walking away. You know, Sexy Fat is ulting Parker. Who didn't get lucky.
Oh, look at the
But Ardio's
time he's
here.
buying, dancing around. Oscar just TP'd in. I don't think RDO really wants this, although at this point, if they could bait this, they've got 4 heroes. They would love a second chance at this, but... Oh god, it's not 4 heroes, it's 5, because Guts just showed up. This is starting to get a little bit awkward, actually. This many heroes here, and there's no actual fight to be had. Parker's not even going to stick around, he just TP's bot.
Yeah, and most unfortunately, this is during the exact same timing that other cards are in other waves, so while they show their hand top, they're also getting damage on mid, a lot of damage on mid, and NoPing, they don't want to stick around here. They're using the DP ulti, but Oscar's looking for a kill.
They all TP their way top, they're looking for it. Can Guts get himself away? No, he can't. Able to zip forward as Alone, they'll find that first kill, now they want more. Sexy Fat pulled in by the Vortex, dropped low, taken down, Alone finds 2 kills, RDO able to turn around with the Avalanche to get some sort of return play, and they're able to get onto Oscar as well, so they are turning this fight, but how much further do they want to go? The Mirana's trying to get away, Michael leaps into the trees. Acorn will hit, so he's still sort of on the run. He's not going to get away. Tries to turn around for an arrow, but LeBron will finish him off, and this should allow them to just get back onto this tower eventually, but... Oh, yeah, pause coming out. But at the end of the day, they take the second fight and they'll get the tower, but they did still have to lose 2 cores in the initial engagement. This is still a costly play, especially considering they lost a tier 1 down bot, and their tier 1 mid's not looking so hot either.
Yeah, and I think just an uncharacteristic overextension from Infamous and alley-ooping over the Death Prophet. I really feel like they could have just instantly killed her instead, and then the fight probably would have been a lot easier. But they get greedy in going for the DK, and then the Death Prophet, and then they get caught up in RDO stuns, and they can make that play with full confidence knowing the Rolling Thunder wasn't available, but just feels like they kind of overstayed their welcome. Not to mention that PL is not really going to show up towards that fight, so you don't have that difference maker, and you gave up on a very successful push mid. I feel like if they really needed to, Infamous could have just taken the 2 heroes top, say, bail out, we're going to trade towers, and then taken mid over instead, and none of that would have gone down the way it did.
Just trying to make maybe 1 too many plays, so NoPing do get a little bit out of that. As we mentioned, they paid a bit of a price for it, but at this point, It's whatever plays you can get, I suppose, as Duster was able to reconnect. We'll get back into the action, and the Tier 1 tower top will fall. RDO able to take it down. So, oh, bit of a momentum shifter here, perhaps. Will Infamous be able to sort of regroup after losing some heroes there? Because take a look at the graphs, at least in terms of net worth, we're basically reset. Experience may still be in Infamous's lead, but in terms of the money, starting to pull even here, which is not really a great thing if you're Parker, because the net worth's kind of even, and you've really just been farming all game, so really love to have that advantage right now. He's only 300 gold ahead of the Tiny, however.
Yeah, and it's always a scary position to be in. And I really do think this tiny hero is going to match up very nicely. You do have that timer set on you by the Diffusal Blade where you can't just aimlessly stick around in a fight forever, but this tiny, especially with the Moonshard buildup, you just hit forever and you just lose your buildings incredibly quickly as well. It's where you have to wonder if NoPing's simultaneous timing is going to be a little bit too strong because they're going to have a Maelstrom on Sexy Fat, they're going to have a Blink Dagger finished on the DK, and then they'll have that Moonshard on Tiny. And you know RDO is showing up to these fights early on, so I can definitely see him making an appearance or two earlier than that PL. And maybe you just lose momentum. Your teammates aren't able to cover that distance.
His timings are going to get a little
Ooh,
dangerous for
scary.
both sides. That's a big play onto Alone. Can they keep him locked down? The Bushwhack comes in, the Rolling Thunder, and even the Sharpshooter coming in for the last bit of damage. And, well, Alone gets taken down. Started at about half HP there as well, so certainly kind of helps them get that kill quickly and efficiently. And now Guts, I mean, he used the Dragon Form for the kill. He might as well try again for this Tier 1 tower mid, although, you take a look, he's not actually going for it at the moment, which I can understand maybe a little bit of hesitation after the last couple of attempts, but this tower has less than 100 HP. You really don't have to commit for it long to bring it down.
Yeah, it'll be very easy. I mean, the only reason that kill even happens is just because of the great vision, knowing that if there's one way Infamous is going to come in and actually try to push onto us, it's probably through that area of the jungle. But look at how low both these mid towers are. You could sneeze and the tower would fall at this point, but it's where the smoke is certainly a little dangerous here. This is after Alone had that Arcane Rune, and unfortunately it expired while he was dead, but here they go. Oscar, he got a glimpse, but this is messy. He gets scared.
Hmm. Yeah, some cold feet on that one. Ends up blinking away, and, well, considering how many heroes were here... Uh-oh. We're here, that kind of makes sense as Alone. Yeah, he's going to zip himself out, so... Infamous kind of gun-shy across the board here. Oscar didn't want to go in. Alone's not looking for it either, so... Fair enough. If they don't have a clean initiation, they would rather not force it, but... Now... Well, when is your next opportunity going to come? They do have another smoke on A, so they could just really try again right now, but you have to assume that NoPing are sort of on alert after breaking up that first play.
Yeah, and you hear Oscar, at least we hear him channeling the epicenter in mid, and well, the tower's already dead, so this card doesn't really
Oh, if
matter.
they could
Oh,
get
Alone
Alone
on the ward.
again.
Oh,
Silence. Nice Tumbler's Toy, though, trying to create some separation. He does still get stunned up, but with A here, I'm not sure they can take him down. Yeah, he is able to jump out. Oscar now goes in, epicenter channeled. Going to try and take LeBron out of the fight. He is not going down easily, and he's actually not going down at all. They just don't have the damage. Michael, though, okay, snipes it out on the backside, but speaking of sniping, RDO, able to show up to the fight. He takes out a support as well, so it ends up being pretty much an even Shrade at that point. But I say even Shrade, it just feels like NoPing are going to get more off the back of that, because you see them going mid, and they do get the tower despite Oscar's attempt to deny it. And Oscar now needs to make sure he just doesn't get picked off. He gets out with the burrow. Guts. Timing wasn't quite right. If that Blink Dagger's up a second or two earlier, maybe he goes for it.
yeah, really, I'm getting a little bit nervous for Infamous. They still maintain a slight gold lead, you know? They still have the Storm Spirit, but I just am waiting for them to get that one clean initiation, that one clean fight that they really haven't gotten in a very long time. They're almost playing at the whims of NoPing's ultis at this point, and we know that's something you never want to hear whenever you have heroes like the Death Prophet, like the DK. And, well, this Moonshard, it's done. He's got the Ag Shard. You have to be very careful. You don't have the workings of a BKB just yet, and usually you get BKB after the Moonshard with this build-up, but it is constant pressure and a constant threat, and Oscar... Oh,
Okay. They could get this kill quickly, that's great, but now they need to get out, and that's going to be a problem. The stuns come out, the storm's locked down, Oscar's now trapped on the other side of the fight. They're just going to lock him down. That was not even remotely worth the kill onto the Hoodwink, and not only do you now lose that fight, but this could be pressure onto that tier 2 tower. Guts, though... what? Duster saying sorry. Did he fat finger a GG or something? Not really sure, but... either way, the fight continues. A is dropping low. Crypt Swarm not enough to take him down. Parker tries to get involved in the fight. LeBron actually did not TP himself out in time, and that arrow is just barely gonna miss onto Guts. That would have been pretty big if they could have gotten it, but will not find the more valuable of the kills. They lost their tier 2 tower, and now that net worth lead that Infamous had been clinging to is starting to slip through their fingers as well.
Yeah, and at the same time, I'm still just looking over at this Tiny. Just got a Brigand's Blade. Is going to be very happy fighting in this mid game. I think top lane, too, just overextending. They didn't even have Epicenter, if I remember correctly, so it just felt like an odd kind of workabouts. But as soon as that PL shows up, it is still get out time. You don't want to take a fight after the fact. You don't want to play into him. And Parker is certainly still very, very farmed. He will be having his item soon, but yeah. Huh.
Wow.
Jump before the word. Yeah, just a little messy.
Well, okay. Quickly moving on there. Gonna have to wait out the epi cooldown for a little while, but... well, how are the rest of the... oh, hold on. Core is doing is what I was gonna say. We'll see if A survives this. He will be able to live, but... now they know. If the Epicenter's down, yeah, they're gonna make a play into the Roche pit. And with RDO here to back them up, they take this pretty quickly. Don't think Infamous are going to be able to get over in time to do anything about it.
Yeah, and this is the beauty of heroes like the Death Prophet and the Pango. It's a multi-tool. Your abilities are just so useful in so many different ways. They're completely fine with that. They say, well, we're not really going to exo that mid-tier 2 anytime soon unless we get a freak initiation, so... might as well use it somewhere else. And Infamous are not that team. They don't get to do that. They don't get to just walk in, start it. They don't have Tusk. They don't have any cheating heroes. They don't have a Viper. They have to really work hard for that kill, and so they simply don't get it. Parker does have his Heart of Trask here, and just another 300 gold, but at the same time, I think NoPing are building themselves up very nicely. Not to mention, RDO, I kind of would love if he bought a Blink Dagger out right now. Yeah, that's what he's got to do. With his Aegis, he's using his Aegis to supplement the fact that he doesn't have a BKB, and now that backline, Infamous could shatter if they're not careful with how they structure themselves defending these towers.
If you're looking, I suppose, for silver linings for Infamous, as you said, that heart just about done on your PL. The Storm Spirit is getting very close to his BKB here as well, so those could be the difference makers, because alone, he's been forced into a very sort of quiet situation, because last couple of times he's jumped in, he just gets locked down and quickly killed off. With the BKB to cover himself, maybe he has a little bit more of an impact here, but that is still assuming that they can handle themselves in these fights, and the fights come in their way. They may not be ready for it yet, so... okay, Michael, able to sort of break that up. Oscar, this is still risky, but he's going to get it. Burrow strike onto 2, Epicenter's there. Duster goes down quickly. LeBron will fall as well. Now they're onto RDO. They burned through a lot of his health already. He does have a second life with that Aegis, but they burned through the first one pretty damn fast, and now look at Guts. He is so far behind this fight. Alone is now going to activate the BKB. They get the Burrow strike down again. The Inkswell stun will connect. The Tiny silenced, stunned, and dead. And they are taking this fight. LeBron, he bought back, and he's immediately taken down a second time. And, well, I was talking about the Heart of Tarask and the BKB being potential game changers. I wasn't that optimistic about it, but those two items in particular just allowed them to dominate that team fight. We got a little bit of talking afterwards as well.
A little bit of banter here and there, but unfortunately, as much as I could praise this Blink Dagger purchase and this decision from RDO, overextending like that, your Blink Dagger's not doing much if you're just getting surrounded by PL illusions and dying. Oscar found the perfect initiation. He kills both the Hoodwink and the Death Prophet off immediately. It was absolutely amazing from Infamous. They get their secondary jump. Everybody's caught. I believe most of Sexy Fat's ultimate was also traded out with the Soulbind. So it's just the throes of playing Pangolier versus Grimstroke, and then well, you don't have enough. Alone gets to pop his BKB so late in that fight that he just kind of gets to walk around, do whatever he wants, and now we're in scary territory. RDO needs his BKB. We need our time to be able to sit out in front for us. We also would love if he has some form of crit, but in the meantime, we are going to need to be running from this PL. And the scary times is when Parker is looking at an item like his Scotty after this Sanjin Yasha. Could even see him turn around looking for items like the Orchid. Anything to punish these heroes post BKB is just going to wreck NoPing. They're not really going to find an answer. No dispels.
And we see Aether Remnant. Or not, wow, Aether Lens picked up by the Grimstroke. So A now can afford to sort of sit even further back here, stay out of the line of fire, and start getting some of that lockdown in place as the Ink Swell is going to be deployed. They're on to RDO. This would be a huge kill. He still doesn't have that BKB. They've got him. No response just yet. Alone has to be careful, though, because he doesn't have any mana, and now he gets hit by the Bushwhack. But Oscar coming in. Epicenter channel. Burrow Strike will be there. Guts is the one to fall. Duster trying to channel out the Sharpshooter. Can he get a snipe? No, he can't. And Infamous somehow don't lose anyone. Alone is still on the run, but Sexy Fat can't catch him. Now Sexy Fat's dead. That is 5 heroes down. Not a single kill in response.
Yeah, I think at this point they're just in their own heads. And I mean, Storm Spirit, man. Alone is getting Inksplode in the mid-river, just showing in a creep wave. It breaks conventions of Dota. It's akin to Primal Beast charging you from the tower and then killing you in 2 seconds. It's just ridiculous. There's no reason that should be a mistake, but because of how the hero works and how mana cost reduction works, that is a mistake that you make, and maybe the mistake is just letting that hero exist in general. But man, it's a sad sort of events now for NoPing. They need to somehow get, I think, a freak initiation coming in from the DK stun into a perfectly chained Pangolier roll. I feel like Sexy Fat needs the Ag Shard just so he doesn't drop it, because right now they're just simply not staying on these targets long enough. I think they need to find a way to kill Oscar as well. He's just always finding the jump. NoPing are just not getting there in time, and I think that's where things are really going awry here. And even though Infamous surely can't push very fast, they're not going to blitzkrieg these buildings. Their position is just going to continue to get better, though.
This is an interesting one. I just now realized Michael has a Helm of the Dominator. He's picked up the Frost Mage for the extra armor. So honestly, that's a little genius, right? Because NoPing's damage is still kind of heavily physical with RDO as the carry. So if Mirana's just kind of passing around extra armor to basically everyone, then RDO's even less effective than he otherwise would have been.
No, and it's a good plus in the meantime, right? But he certainly is going to be looking for the small harpy, you know. And there is a small harpy actually in the game. You could get that takeoff, and then, well, then you've got flying vision, and well, then everybody is sad on NoPing because their jump beforehand, there's really just nothing to hide from at that point. I think if they walk into that Radiant small camp right now, he'd probably ditch it just then. But they're doing nothing. NoPing, they need to find these BKBs. They're not going to fight until then, but yeah, that's where in the meantime, Guts isn't finding a way into a creep wave. He's letting his teammates take the lanes that are really the safest right now, but he could also very easily die in his own base. Oh.
Yeah, there's the jump. Well, yeah, they're just immediately going to tip him again. Damn. They are really trying to get into Guts' head right now, but they find the pickoff, and now they're taking a tier 3 tower. Over on the other side, though, NoPing are trying to respond with basically the same play, but oh, RDO, he's the one who gets caught. He wasn't able to clear himself out. He doesn't have his BKB yet, so he is a little bit stuck here. He'll look for a TP, and Oscar, he doesn't have the Burrow Strike up again, so he's not going to be able to cancel that, but if you're Infamous, that works out pretty damn well for you. You make the push bot, you're able to stop the opposing push top. They still got to pick off onto a couple of heroes, and Parker's just marching his way through his opponent's base. He's got to watch his backline, though, because A does get picked off, but now that means RDO doesn't really have the combo to work with, so Parker's able to escape. It's just, unfortunately, he has to sacrifice a teammate to do so.
Yeah, and the real killer here, I think, is that there are 2 Infamous heroes in the well right now. Just chilling. Just, you know, getting their health, mana back, and Parker still feels comfortable enough to play underneath his opponent's tier 3. I mean, this game is just kind of getting a little bit crazy, and I wonder... Yeah, Parker's gonna leave it. What a nice guy. And now they've got flying vision, so that's even better. And a DD rune to top it all off. I mean, it really is becoming more and more difficult for NoPing to kind of keep
What?
their head above water here.
They killed it.
Ah, who? Oscar?
I think it might have been Oscar.
Oh
Oh, did
my.
he? I think he accidentally killed it with his shard pulse. I think that might have been it. Otherwise, that's just kind of mean to kill it off when the Murano was right there. But, well, that's a bit of a bummer, but not the end of the world, I suppose, if you're Infamous, because they're still pushing out 2 of these 3 lanes, and the only reason the third
Oh, he
lane...
got one anyway. Look at that. Look at that.
Did he? Okay, there we go. Now he's got to keep it safe, though, because Sexy Fat's coming, well, not for the creep, actually looking for the kill instead. So, Michael, gonna get hit up, and, well, they take him down, and they take his Harpy down. So, if Oscar hadn't have killed the first one, then they would have been just
And
fine.
nothing lasts forever. Nothing lasts forever. But they're back on tier 3s. They got the creep wave in mid. Backdoor's gone. Owen has a DD. They need to disarm him. Somebody stop him.
Oh, this is a bait. Guts is going to get jumped in on. Still no BKB on that Dragon Knight. He is just dead to rights. He will fall. Duster dead as well. Buyback from the Hoodwink. RDO, meanwhile, trying to get on the backline. Can he kill off A? I think he can with the toss. The problem is he is now completely by himself. He tries to use the Spider Legs to get back into the base, but the Burrow Strike is going to lock him down. RDO just has to hold his ground in the corner and try and fight this one out. He's doing a pretty substantial amount of damage, though, and it's enough to find the kill into Oscar, but now here comes the PL, but he's getting blown up. Okay. RDO just holds his ground. They did have to use another buyback because Guts needed to get in there, but he's in. They hold mostly. They did still kind of lose the racks, but all things considered, I think that's probably the best that they could have hoped for with the Tiny staying alive and turning that fight around.
Yeah, they certainly overextend. They really are kind of bound to both the Burrow Strike and the Inkswell there. They didn't have enough damage to top up those kills, and yeah, they get Guts, but now Guts is going to have auto gold actually towards that BKB that he was otherwise in no position to find, and more importantly, 3,000 gold over towards that Tiny. This is where RDO, it's him pulling the 1v5. It's him actually able to kind of change this game for the better, and 40 seconds on PL, this is so awkward. They could actually get in here, and they could actually post quite the scare.
Alone? Oh, Alone's just going to go for it. Trying to get onto Guts. Still doesn't have that BKB, but look at the physical damage. RDO is just going to force Alone out of the pit. Sharpshooter. Doesn't quite hit. And Alone, oh, he doesn't know. Gus is right there. He's able to zip away now, but this is buying a decent amount of time. Teammates are trying to push their way over, but hey, that's too far forward. They'll simply be taken down, and
watch the SK.
Here comes Oscar. Jumping in. Burrow Strike's there. Who gets the Aegis? RDO will grab it. Not sure who got the shard there, but the Aegis is the most important aspect, and actually RDO did get the shard. Okay. So he's able to pick up both. LeBron goes down. You're okay with that. There is finally a BKB on Guts, and maybe NoPing can finally sort of calm things down and get back into this game.
Yeah, RDO, he's really working. I think large in part due to getting the spider legs. I mean, he's just actually able to navigate the map with his hero. He's not really getting caught on those entrances and exit ways. At the same time, though, I mean, that could have gone so much better and so much worse for both sides. But they're doing what they have to do to get really the most out of this game. Parker's going to have a BKB of his own actually built up pretty soon here, which is kind of breaking a PL rule there because, you know, well, if you BKB, there's only one PL that could possibly be BKB'd, but I guess he's really feeling the pressure of not only the magic nukes, but also just the mana burn, having the threat of that DK stun, just having an instant way to get out. It could be what he's looking at, but still, that's a little disconcerting. You'd want to see your PL go for bigger and brighter items, but I guess he really is kind of banking on the temporary power spike of that BKB, but I don't know if I agree. We'll have to see. It feels like a gamble.
Especially considering the item that he switched up out from was an Abyssal Blade purchase. So, oh god, Alone, okay. That's a nice zip. They get the Vortex, they get the arrow, and yeah, LeBron, we have reached the point in the game where this position 5 Death Prophet's kind of just going to get bullied basically every single fight. But if you're the one who dies and the rest of the team makes it out, his death timer is still not even that high, so acceptable losses at this point.
Yeah, I think this is the type of game where with these ultra carries, it becomes who is more equipped to deal with the other. Do we see the Ghost Scepters and the Halberds come out? We need Force Staffs. We need those types of items. And then suddenly Ardio's one-man show is not going to feel nearly as problematic, but he's got a full Silver Edge now. I mean, before it felt like he was barely killing Aeon and Avatos. Now it's going to be assuredly a dead Grimstroke. Not to mention, he could maybe find his way into the Mirana, which would also really stop that Chain Stun that's coming out. As Mirana ult does get popped here, but this is a very scary position on the guts, but
That's
I don't know if they
interesting.
want this.
Oh, okay.
Really?
Oscar's coming in as well. They're going to give it a go. Do they have the damage? Not really. Guts is able to pop the BKB, but that's a very nice soulbind that's going to take the Pangolier ult out of the equation. And they are starting to chip away at this a little bit. They're getting onto the Tiny. Ardio, though, does have 2 lives, so they've got to be so careful. And Oscar, he's just going to TP out. Okay. That's an interesting poke, as Ardio just blinked into an arrow. It's going to break up his momentum momentarily, but he is in onto A. He'll find that kill, but now Parker's in some trouble without his BKB. He's got to be very wary of this lockdown, and he's not going to be able to survive. That's just too much there. They needed to be able to get away cleanly, as I think Alone just did that as a distraction, basically, and bought enough time for his teammate to TP out, but you lost the PL. That's really the big one.
Yeah, and now I am getting legitimately nervous. The Tiny is getting too big. He's looking at items like the Satanic next. He's got Overwhelming Blink in the back pocket once this Aegis is kind of busted away. Meanwhile, again, it looks over at that PL, and the buildup is just not as cleanly. And LeBron, you know, he's a saint. He's just kind of dying D-Warden, you know, really living his best life. But we're not seeing that confidence from Infamous that we saw in Game 1. We're not seeing them really cleanly get onto their targets. We're not seeing them actually get that easy, just full 100-0. They're not finishing their kills. They're starting these big fights, and then they're just not able to keep it up. I think that's a Rolling Thunder. Yeah, he's in.
Oscar's going to
With
need
Gem.
help, but they still don't have their PL. They're trying to just avoid this fight as best as they can, as Sexy Fast is going to roll his way out, and
Ooh, yes, Gem.
Swashbuckle can actually lock him down. Oscar's going to blink in. They get the Inkswell stun, but now Guts comes in as well. RDO rejoins the fight. Avatos. Actually, I'm not even sure there was a toss. That was just the avalanche. Enough to get the kill as Oscar goes down. Sharpshooter hits A. And now Infamous just have to scramble to get themselves out of here. Alone's going to look for a TP. Can anyone reach him? No, not in time. So Alone falls back. Phantom Lancer has respawned, but Infamous have really lost a lot off of this advantage. In the meantime, it really only takes 1 or 2 deaths on the PL to just kind of ruin their rhythm.
Yeah, and, well, now what? We wait for next Roche. We wait for the new fight. I feel like Infamous are just going to keep on losing their grasp on this game. At the very least, Alone's got an Arcane Rune bottled in the meantime, but is LeBron going to get taken down again? I think if they go for it, it's a little bit scary, but look at Alone.
RDO kind of got in there a little bit early, though, so he's able to cut off Michael, so they've already made it a trade, but now Parker has to fight. He's going to pop his BKB, trying to do as much as he can. RDO no longer has the Aegis to work with, but Alone, you used all your mana. That's just a massive mistake. He goes in with no mana left to get back out, and that completely hands a teamfight win over to NoPing. Without Alone's death there, I think you're still okay with that trade-off if Parker gets away. Now you can't really do anything. You need the Storm to actually take a fight.
Yeah, and I think that's where LeBron is just sitting, smiling in the seat, you know? Oh, you're going to zip from the middle of the map to try and kill me, and I'll get my Glimmer Cape off, and your zip will only do a quarter of the damage? Like, I think the big problem is Infamous are not getting team fights anymore. It is just them botching initiations, going in, staying too long, really overstaying their welcome, and then getting picked apart. I mean, RDO has not been playing with buyback for the past 10 minutes, and he has just won every single gamble that he's taken so far. And we are in that point where I really think he's not scared of this PL. The PL is the one who has to kite around him. And also, with this BKB, he knows. He knows which one is right. He knows which one to stick on. We're not seeing this fight get so dragged out that the Tiny dies after the fact. And Infamous, I mean, they're holding hands. They're stuck here. You'd hate to lose the Mirana in mid, but they don't see this coming. Easy kill. Another freebie.
Meanwhile,
GD Tiny.
that's a Mirana who just finished off an Aghanim's Scepter, which to me really just feels like a defensive play. This feels like we need more ways to cut creep waves more than something that's actually going to help them find kills in these fights. And speaking of kills, Oscar just gets picked off outside of the base, and Infamous are kind of starting to fall apart. Those two heroes are both dead with no buyback. And NoPing, well, once this glyph wears off, they're not going to stop. This is just going to be a pretty easy lane of racks for them unless, well, some sort of miracle can happen, but this isn't looking all that great for them. Parker's going to get stunned up. RDO jumps in, looking for the kill onto A, able to find it right away. Buyback now comes through from the Sand King as he was able to get enough money for it, but there's nothing to buy back into. The fight's kind of already done.
Yeah, they're trying to drag their opponents out right now. If they get any pick here, they could very safely disengage and just go to the pit. They know it's a 3v5, but there is also a cart wave bottom, so that will probably break up the tension a little bit here. But at the same time, Infamous, I really don't think they've got a handle on this game anymore. They need to find the backline. They need to get the initiations they were for the first 20 minutes of this game. Parker is really unable to do very much anymore. We're just never seeing Infamous get onto that big fight, getting those heroes caught. I just don't think they really have a grasp of what's going on anymore. And like you said, with the Ags on the Mirana, it feels like they're not very in present mind right now. It doesn't feel like they're really grasping the situation they're in. It doesn't feel like we're getting that same reactivity that NoPing has really kind of clawed themselves back into. Not to mention, I mean, Roche respawning in a very early Roche respawn as well. That is just going to favor NoPing. They just keep playing into their own momentum. It's just continuously working.
Not a whole lot to slow them down at the moment. As Alone, okay. Tries a play on RDO. Okay, they needed vision there. They whiff on the Epi, and oh, now here comes the response. Guts looking to push his way forward, holding the BKB here until he actually sees a fight he wants. Sexy
The
Fat.
gem, they see everything.
They roll their way forward. They're going to get onto A first. Should be a relatively easy kill, but now they'll try to respond. They're getting onto RDO. Do they have the damage to bring him down, though? RDO not being taken down easily. BKB activated. Look at the damage he's dishing out as he takes down Oscar right away. They just have to retreat. They're going to try to get out as quickly as they can, but again, that gem really doing some work here. They get directly onto the real PL. They toss him up into the air twice, and they just completely annihilate him with the right-click damage, and at this point, the buyback's not there on really any of these dead heroes, so NoPing really are just going to be in a position to try and end this. They could just go tier 4s right now, but okay. RDO's going to play it a little bit safer. He'll go for the top lane of Rax instead.
And they are getting split, and they will have to do it through backdoor. They are able to do it, though, I'm pretty sure, if everything is hitting it. Is this really how we see this game go down? Our RDO is, yeah, just now going to blink. Does need to finish off that one, but hey, guys, we need people in the base.
Yeah, I mean, you have to fight right now. You don't have a choice. Your tier 4s are falling. Now the Ancient's been exposed. Even with that backdoor protection, it's not enough. It's just the supports in here right now. Where is the Storm? He's trying to make his way back over. He'll zip in now, but that cost all of his mana, so he has to go back to the fountain, and while he's doing this, the Ancient's just going down. A is gonna fall. Michael is dying as well. Alone finally makes his move, and maybe they can hold this? I don't know. It's looking rough for them. The backdoor protection's been removed, and yeah, they can't do it. They just waited way too long to make a play. And now, despite Alone's best efforts, that Ancient is still going down.
I'm speechless. I'll be honest. I what a dramatic fashion. I mean, Alone not being in the base, not breaking up any of the backdoor with the tiny hits. I mean, he didn't have BKB for so long there, and of course he does kill him at the end of the day. But what just happened? They just lost. I mean, Infamous had them dead to rights. I mean, you look at win probability, there is no shot in this game. They get the Roche, they get a little bit of agency back, you get a BKB on Tiny, and then bottom lane goes so poorly that they just lose the game off of that. The Tiny just never dies after that point. The PL just gets kited after each and every fight. Duster hits him with the bushwhack. The spells land. He doesn't have any backup because Alone and Oscar throw themselves into the fight so early, and A doesn't get a spell off for 10 minutes. I mean, that is a complete. I don't know. They just worked him. They completely swung the game in their favor. And I mean, I felt confident in this Tiny versus PL matchup at the end of the day, but I really don't think with how far behind they had any business winning that game. Oh, let's be real.
Right. I mean, they were down at one point by about 12,000 net worth. It wasn't supposed to be a point where RDO would hit that sort of critical mass to deal with the PL, but Infamous just I don't know, they take their eyes off the ball for a little bit. They let up on that pressure at really the exact wrong time. And by the time they realized that they had sort of lost their advantage, the adjustments they tried to make to get back on track were too little and far too late. So NoPing, I mean, credit to them for taking the opportunity when it was presented to them, but they weren't supposed to have that opportunity in the first place.
Yeah, and I mean, talked about a little in game. This is how Infamous have lost their games before. It's how we've watched them lose their games before, where they are it's 3-14 in Infamous of 3K net worth lead at 10 minutes into the game. They skip over an item in the queue, and then they die because of that choice, and then suddenly the game gets flipped on its head, and then Infamous they never take a break to farm. They never get themselves back in that rhythm, and I think this was a perfect exhibit of that. I mean, 25 to 40 minutes, this was just a very different team, a very scared team compared to what they previously were playing like.
Just unfortunate to see them still struggling with that issue. You never want to really point out a negative characteristic of a squad, but as you said, Infamous has had this kind of issue before, and they haven't quite found the solution just yet. But they may very well have to, because with this loss, this series is going the distance. We are going to have a third match, and I assume NoPing are going to try and play something out a little similar to what we saw here in game two, maybe a little bit faster in terms of the tempo, but the fact remains Infamous will have to make the adjustments here because that was a tough loss for them that they now have to bounce back from. So, see how it goes. One final match here to close out phase one. NoPing and Infamous are going to go at each other one final time to determine which of the two squads advances to phase two. So, stick around. We'll be back for the game three draft in about 10 minutes.